Joined by Michael Josem here in the studio, and it really comes about as an online gaming expert after what has been in the papers and reported this week about the Labour Party. Tom Watson, the deputy leader, who's sort of proposing more clampdowns on online gambling, and obviously that would affect the Isle of Man. So I thought it'd be good as an expert to get you in here to talk about that. What is he proposing, first of all, if they ever get into government, of course?
Sure. So what he's proposing are two broad ideas. One is the idea that regulation of online gambling should be broadly consistent with regulation of offline gambling. And so in the last little period, there's been a clampdown in the UK and a reduction in the maximum wages that you can make in what they call fixed odds betting terminals.
Massive change there, wasn't it?
Yeah, so quite a significant reduction there. And that's included a restriction on the maximum wage or maximum stakes, the maximum amount you can gamble there. And so the first idea that he has here is that the online regulation should be broadly consistent with that. So it doesn't really make much sense that if you go down to your local,
bookies
or and have that in that physical thing, you can be limited in how much you can wager. Right. However, in your bathroom, in your privacy of your own house, on your mobile phone, you can make unlimited wagers. And so that's the first part of his idea. Yeah. And the second idea is to introduce rules and restrictions and expectations about what gambling adjacent services may be. And so, for example, there is now in 2019 there's a whole world of what is called euphemistically social gambling or social casino games, but also in various computer games there's what's called loot boxes. And so that is you pay some money and you get a chance of winning an in-game item in a computer game.
Right. And
so the argument up until now of the casino operators is this is not gambling because you can't win, you can only lose. And so that obviously makes no sense to a human, and so this whole area has been approved by too many lawyers and not enough humans. And so the Labour Party now is proposing to introduce rules around both of those areas.
Because they were the ones within government who did some restrictions, didn't they? They brought in all sorts of new rules to make it harder to gamble, or in the Isle of Man, give us more problems. Would that be right?
So back when the Labour Party was last in power, in 2005, they introduced the UK Gambling Act. It was then, has been modified significantly in the last 15 years or so. But certainly that whole broad framework was set up when the Labour Party was last in.
How damaging is Labour to our economy here then? Potentially.
Well, I think that what the Labour Party is trying to do there is what's right for the people of the UK. And so they have an obligation to protect children from these sort of, these casino gambling. And so, for example,
so it's the right thing then.
Yeah, so it certainly can be in some areas, and there will be a lot of community debate around the issues here. But today, on the March 2019, there is a company in the US called Zynga, which is operating a Wizard of Oz slot machine, and they say if you're a 13-year-old child, you're allowed to play our slot machine based around Wizard of Oz. And they say you can do that because this isn't really gambling because you can't win. So you can lose money, that's fine, the company will take your money. But the idea that children, 13-year-old children, are allowed to play a Wizard of Oz slot machine is horrific.
But this is checks and balances, isn't it? About trying to make sure that people. I mean, it could be online dating, could be anything. That you're always going to have children trying to do this, and using.
Well, today, 13-year-olds can play these slot games.
They can actually play them.
They're allowed, all right? And so that's if you think that 13-year-olds should be allowed to play online slot machines on their mobile phones. So
more regulation could be the right way.
Yeah, certainly, and so it can be, because what's important here is about what's right for the consumer, what's right for our children, and so I think Tom Watson is onto a very, very strong policy here, because it makes sense, and at the same time, I think in the broader gambling industry, there's no one, to exercising much in the way of thought leadership on this whole area. And so there's a whole problem for this gambling industry that they are looking to harvest. The tragedy of the commons problem, they are trying to extract as much money as quickly as possible without considering the impact on children.
Let's broaden this out slightly then, just to the fact that you've worked in online gambling massively here. How are we looking, the Isle of Man now, as a future? Is it okay? Are people nervous about Brexit and all that sort of thing? How are you reading it?
Sure. So looking to answer your question literally, the Isle of Man is already outside the European Union, and so a lot of the online gambling operations that take place from the Isle of Man are already outside the EU, and so in that sense, those operations that are focused into Asia, into the rest of the world, will be substantially unaffected, right? And so I guess going forward, it'll be. I'm reluctant to make predictions,
sure,
but certainly, that is, the Isle of Man's gambling industry is unlikely to face significant change. So I'm sure there'll be.
The rumour mill is always running that people are moving off, and
Yeah, well, look, there have been some big companies here in the Isle of Man laid off a lot of people around the world, right? And so in that sense, but that's shutting down offices around the world is not a Brexit thing. Like that's they have a different corporate strategy, and so I think there'll always be change, and it's difficult to pin it to any one individual.
But overall, you think the future's okay here in the
It can be if they do it responsibly, and so I think that's really the onus is on the gambling operators of the Isle of Man to do this in a manner that is safe, it is sensible, and it's secure and fun, right? And so betting on Man U to beat Watford at the end of the month can be fun, and but it must also be safe, and that's really I think it's really incumbent upon these operators. Like fortunately, the Isle of Man operators, as far as I'm aware, do not deliberately market their activities to children. Some of their operations, could be adjusted, I'm sure, to be a little bit safer and more secure. But the Isle of Man is not the worst. The companies here on the Isle of Man, compared to elsewhere, compared to operations in the US, which sell slot machines to children, the Isle of Man can be relatively secure now.